Hello everyone, this is Al Fadi and I want to welcome you back to a continuation of this video series that has to do with the basically historical criticism of early Islam. Now when we talk about the word Qibla, any Muslim knows that this is the direction of prayer, and if you ask a Muslim today, where do you pray towards? The answer is towards Mecca. Now, historically speaking, according to standard Islamic narrative, allegedly that the prayer, at least at the beginning of Islam until Muhammad migrated to Medina, used to be towards Jerusalem, and then the Quran basically stated that now the direction of prayer has to change towards Mecca. Now, you would assume if you were to go to early mosques, at least within the first 100 years of Islam, you would notice that the Qibla, the direction of prayer, would have been at least towards Mecca for the most part. But is that what we are finding? To answer that question, with us here in studio is our dear brother, Dr. Jay Smith. Dr. Jay, what about the Qibla? I mean, you and I have really talked about this numerous times, but for the sake of people who maybe haven't had a chance yet to watch that series.
Okay, so we do know that according to the traditions, and they refer back to the Quran, chapter 2, verse 145 to 149, refers to this change of the Qibla from the Jerusalem down to the Masjid al-Haram. And the Masjid al-Haram is, every Muslim will tell you, is the Kaaba itself. That's the Masjid. That's the forbidden place of bowing. That's what everybody bows towards. So the Qibla is redirected down that. And according to the traditions that this happened around 624. Muhammad had moved to Medina in 622. And he then receives this revelation in 624. And the reason why is because he had gone there to arbitrate between the Ansar and the Banu Qurayshi, the Banu Qurayza, the Banu Nadir, the Banu Kanuka family, those three major families who were in conflict with the Ansar, the natives of Medina. He was a neutral arbiter, and they brought him up from Mecca to live in Medina to do that arbitration. So he spent 2 years trying to arbitrate between the Jews and the Ansar, and it didn't work. And one of the reasons is because he imposed the Treaty of Medina, the Constitution of Medina, where he stipulated that he is to be the arbiter between man and God. And the Jews rejected that, as I would have rejected, as you would have rejected it. So then this revelation comes to him in 624. You don't worry about the Jews. You had given them what God has allowed them to, the prayer towards Jerusalem. Take that away from them and redirect it back down to the Masjid al-Haram. So the Masjid al-Haram, according to tradition, standard Islamic narrative, that is Mecca. Which suggests, therefore, that after 624, every mosque must therefore be facing Mecca, not Jerusalem anymore. All of them must be facing Mecca.
Right.
Well, Gam Gibson was doing this research for the Jordanian government. He was doing the Quranic geography, which came out in 2011. He had been researching, and of course, within that whole research, he kept on going from mosque to mosque to mosque to mosque and finding the Qibla walls. The Qibla walls are pretty easy to find because almost all mosques, unlike cathedrals in Christianity, which are in the shape of a cross, are long and narrow. They're wide. The Qibla wall is always the longest wall, so the Qibla is either one of two directions, it's either this way or that way, and it's therefore easy to find on all the mosques. Even most of the mosques that have been destroyed, there's still the foundations there. And so he went to all these foundations of destroyed mosques, or went to the ones that were still erected, and he noticed where the Qibla wall was. And they took a direction using the Aster satellite technology that comes out of Japan. Very accurate. It can get it within a few hundred yards of accuracy. He looked and saw where the Qibla direction was for every one of these mosques. And he didn't just go to a few. He wanted to go to the oldest mosques. So he went to all the oldest mosques that were in the same century that Muhammad lived. So therefore, all the oldest mosques that would have been in existence after 624. Let's go to the slide and let's see what he found. And we're going to just show you a few of them. I don't have enough space on this map, but there you can see Mecca way down here. That's where all the mosques should have been facing. But
That's right.
This is what he found.
That's the logic, basically behind all of this.
So there's Medina. And guess where the Qibla wall is?
Facing Petra.
In 1987, it's called the Qiblatain Mosque, the one that's in Medina.
The two Qibla mosque, yeah.
Two Qiblas.
Yeah.
And no, people were always curious, why two Qiblas? Well, in 1987 they did some excavation and rejuvenating, and to do that they had to dig down in the sand, and they came across a completely new Qibla. And that Qibla, was the older Qibla. That was the first Qibla, and that was facing directly north, straight towards. Look at what it's facing towards, Petra.
Based on calculations, by the way, not
Based
just
on accurate
guesswork.
calculations.
Yeah.
Now that one could have been Jerusalem because Petra and Jerusalem are
Let's
so
say
close.
it's Jerusalem.
in that-
Okay.
Okay, let's just do that. Another one, this one has been put into question. So I'm putting a question mark here because even Gibson is now saying he's not sure about this one to be, because we're not sure that that was the original floor plan that we see there today. Nonetheless, back in 2011, he did say that this one is also facing Petra, which is fascinating because even if it was done more modernly, why are they still facing Petra
That's right.
and not Jerusalem? I'm sorry, not Mecca. And there are quite a few degrees off there. This one in Shadaman, this one is not in doubt. This one is very clear. In southern India, in Shadaman, the oldest mosque in India, these are all 7th century mosques. This one is facing directly to Petra, not to Mecca. And then he went to the Jami' Hama al-Kabir, Syria. That's in 637. That's in Syria. And take a look, the Hama Mosque, it's facing directly south. It should be facing a little bit off to the left, but no, it's facing straight to Petra. Fustat, now we're way over in the west. This is the mosque that was discovered about a century earlier, was dug up about a century earlier by two scholars who, when they looked at it, they noticed that it was facing straight east. It should have been facing southeast. And they brought this up as a real problem back in 1905. And then he went to this one in Jerusalem itself, even to Jerusalem Mosque, which is the Dome of the Rock, not the mosque, the Dome of the Rock itself, the whole citadel, including the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which was built in 709 or 711, between that time period. It is facing Petra as well. He went to Humayma Mosque and the Amman Mosque there in Jordan. So I put them both together because they're both in the same city. And that's facing straight west. It should have been facing south. So we're looking east, west, south, north. They're all facing Petra. So far, you've got a real problem here. The Grand Sana Mosque in Yemen. That would have been pretty easy to see if it was off. And it is pretty easy. It is not facing Mecca. It is facing Petra. Now we're up to 705, so we're now into the 8th century. Notice these start in 626, 627, 629, 637, 642, 690, 699, 701, 705. We're now into the 8th century. We then go to the Khirbat al-Minya Mosque in Israel, which is just a little bit west of the Dome of the Rock, and that one also is facing Petra. What do we know? Every Qibla from 624 up until 706 is facing Petra. None of them are facing Mecca. Tell me why that's significant.
Well, I mean, once again, if indeed a man by the name of Muhammad existed, who allegedly received the revelation in chapter 2, verses 144 all the way to 150, 152, talking about the change of that direction towards Mecca. If Mecca was such a significant place, if there is indeed a holy mosque in there, not just at the time of Muhammad, but at least for the first 100 years after Muhammad, now, why in the world none of these mosques that we looked at right now ever face towards Mecca? You would expect them to face towards Mecca. Even if they, let's say, they weren't facing towards Mecca and then Muhammad came and now they're starting to face towards Mecca, you would see significant changes in there. But none of them is facing towards Mecca. Even the ones in China, by the way, and the ones in India, we're talking about sophisticated civilization, by the way. It's hard for me to imagine that they would have missed the direction of Mecca.
Now, so when was the first mosque? Do you know this off the top of your head? I know what it is. When do you think the first mosque facing Mecca was discovered? What was the date of that mosque?
I mean, it would have been at least after 100 years. At least.
100 years?
Yeah.
Okay. If Muhammad died, if the Qiblas were canonized in 624, so after 724 is what you're saying.
Right.
And you're correct. The first mosque that they found, that Gibson has found, could be that there may be some mosques in the future he'll find, but so far, we're now into 2021, or 2022, he still hasn't found any. The very first mosque that he finds that is facing Mecca is the Banbor Mosque, which is in Pakistan, 727. That's the 8th century. That's 100 years after Muhammad and certainly over 100 years after the Qibla was supposedly canonized in 624, according to the standard Islamic narrative. That is hugely significant. Now, this is evidence. Now, remember, we talked about we don't have the evidence. The evidence, there's an absence of evidence, and evidence of absence does not mean absence of evidence. The phrase that we've been bandying around through all these episodes, coined by Jamal Badawi way back in 1995 in my debate with him at that time. Folks, this is evidence. This is no longer absence of evidence. We are now finding evidence. This is bricks and mortar. We're talking about stones. We're talking about walls. We're talking about an artifact. These are no longer an absence of evidence. This is true evidence. And the evidence is damning to Islam. It's damning to the standard Islamic narrative because it shows categorically that these mosques, whose walls are still there today, some of the entire mosque is still there today. The Dome of the Rock is still there today, although some people have quibbled as to whether or not we have the original building. Nonetheless, the entire citadel is still there today. The entire citadel, where the Al-Aqsa and the Dome of the Rock are situated, but all three of those structures, the citadel, the Dome of the Rock, and the Al-Aqsa, are all facing Petra, uniquely facing Petra. And they were all there from the 7th up until the early 8th century. The earliest we can find for anything towards Mecca is not till 727. So something happened prior to 727 that changed this direction. But that is evidence, not an absence of evidence. Now we're getting to the evidence.
Amen. What are we going to talk about next time?
Now we're going to talk about the trade route theory. We're going to look and see what Crone did to Montgomery Watt's trade route theory that supported why Mecca was important.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for watching. This is Al-Fadi. God bless you. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel Sira International and click on the bell so that you receive notifications whenever we publish a new video or go live. I would also like to appeal to you to consider becoming a Patreon patron by clicking the link right below. By doing so, you can give towards the production of these videos. There are also other options for you where you can give to our channel. I thank you from the bottom of my heart.